Okay, so this video is meant for my Concepts of Algebra 2 kids. We have a quiz over sections 3.1 through 3.3, ways to solve systems of equations. This is on Monday. Here's a review. 5 problems on how to solve using all the 3 methods. So here's my first system. We have to solve it by graphing. Here's your 2 equations. One is in standard form, 2x plus 5y equals 2. The other's in slope-intercept form. So I wanted to go over each method, alright? So here we go. 2x plus 5y equals 2. So when this is in standard form, we find the x and y intercepts. So to find the x-intercept, we cover up y. So again, I'll cross it off, just so you can see that it says 2x equals 2. And you'll solve for x by dividing by 2. X is 1. And that is the x-intercept for that graph. You put that on the graph right now. X is 1, there's the x-axis, there's a 1. Now I do a similar thing for the y-intercept. Now I want the y, so again I'll cover up the x. Just so you can see, it says 5y equals 2. 5y equals 2. And I'll divide by 5. And you get y equals, and this is 0.4. 0.4 is the y-intercept. It's a little bit less than a half. There you go. And now the trouble for me is trying to graph a straight line. So I'm going to do the best I can. And again, if my point is off, you'll know why. So we graph a straight line. Okay, and I took the pause to graph the line right, but there's my best guess. So my x-intercept was 1, my y-intercept was 0.4. Now I'm going to take the other equation, I'll do it in blue and then graph in blue. Y equals 1/2 x minus 5. This is in slope-intercept form. So 2 things to identify. The m, the slope, the m is in front of x, that's 1/2. The b is the number at the end, that's a negative 5. What we're going to do is we're first going to graph the b on the y-axis. We're going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to count the slope. Up 1, to the right 2. And if you want a really good picture, you can count it again. Up 1, to the right 2. And now we'll connect those dots. And there's my line. So now the question is, where do they cross? Well, I look here. I said, hey, here's an intersection point. And it looks like that intersection point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 6. That intersection point is 6. Negative 2. Let's double check to make sure it works. Plug it into your equations. Okay, this is x. This is y. 6 is x. 2 times 6 is 12. I'll use a different color so you can see on the... So 2 times 6 is 12. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. 12 minus 10 is 2. That works in the first equation. Okay, plug it in the second one. Y is negative 2. Equals 1/2 x. Well, let's do this. 1/2 of x. X is 6. Half of x is 3. Minus 5. What's 3 minus 5? Negative 2. It works. Here is my solution. 6, negative 2. Okay, so next we're going to talk about substitution, and we'll do 2 examples of substitution, okay? Here's our first example. 5x plus 3y equals 8. Y equals negative 5x plus 16. Now I did this example because I want to show you that your first step in substitution is to solve one of the equations for one of the variables. So I'm going to write the 2 equations over here. 5x plus 3y equals 8. Y equals negative 5x plus 16. If you look, one of these equations is already solved for a variable, so you have to do nothing in step 1. That equation is the second one, equation 2. So if I label this is equation 1, this is equation 2. Equation 2 is already solved for. This equals y. So I take it and I plug it in for y into the first equation. 5x plus 3 times something that equals y is equal to 8. And that's something that equals y is negative 5x plus 16. So now I have all x's, I solve for x. 5x stays the same. This positive 3 gets distributed. That becomes negative 15x, and that becomes positive 48. That equals 8. Combine your like terms. 5 minus 15 is negative 10x. The 48 comes down. That still equals 8. Subtract 48 from both sides. Negative 10x. The 48's go away, equal negative 40. Divide by negative 10. The negative 10's go away, x equals, and that's a 4. So now remember how these problems come full circle, right? You start with one equation, solve for a variable, we did. Then we take what we solved for, plug it in for that variable, we did. Solve for the variable that's left, x, we did. Take this x value, put it back into that first equation. Y equals negative 5 times not x, but what x equals, plus 16. What goes in that parenthesis is 4. Multiply, that's a negative 20 plus 16. Negative 20 plus 16 is negative 4. And our answer is 4, negative 4, as a point. And that's where these two lines cross. Okay, our second problem here, 3x plus y equals 4, 5x minus 2y equals 3. I'm going to rewrite both equations over here. This is where splitting them apart is probably the best way to do these problems. So now the question is, which variable do I solve for? Do I solve for a variable in equation 1 or equation 2? We are going to solve for y in equation 1. Y in equation 1. Because there is a 1 in front of that y, and it is the easiest one to solve for. So we are working with equation 1 first. I'm going to take this original equation, and I'm going to solve it for y. I'm going to solve for y. So what I do is I get rid of this positive 3x. And to get rid of the positive 3x, I subtract 3x. These 3x's cancel. Here's my y all by itself. Yes. Over here, these do not combine. 4 has no x, 3 has an x. 4 minus 3x. That is step 1. Done. Now, step 2. I have this for y. This is now going to go into the other equation for the y. So I will write 5, I'm going to scoot it down here, 5x minus 2 times not y, but what y equals 3. And what y equals is 4 minus 3x. So I need to simplify this, because it's now x's, I can solve for x. 5x. The negative 2y gets distributed. So it's a negative 2 times 4. That's a negative 8. It's a negative 2 times negative 3. That's a positive 6x. Combine your like terms. 5 and 6. They're both positive, so that's 11. The minus 8 comes down. I'm going to do two things now. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And I'm going to divide by 11. And there is my x value of 1. And now these problems come full circle. This value of x goes into that first equation. Y equals 4 minus 3 times, what is x? X is 1. Y equals 4. This is a negative 3. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. And 4 minus 3 is 1. And I answer as a point. X first, y second. Okay? Alright, so there's substitution. Okay, so now let's work with the linear combination. This is where they're stacked. Okay? So remember, there is a question you should answer. And that question is, multiply equation by, so I get this and this. Okay? Well, look at your variables. It's either going to be the x's or the y's. Now the question is here, I can't make 3 become 2. I can't make 2 become 3. What about the y's? I can't make 7 become 5. I can't make 5 become 7. Uh-oh. So now this requires us to multiply both equations by something. Bummer. But we're going to do it. So we're going to multiply equation blank by blank, so this, and multiply equation blank by blank, so we get this. Okay, so we're going to multiply both equations by something. So the question is, how do we figure this out? Well, first of all, I would take the smaller numbers, and the smaller numbers are the x's. And I would say, okay, 3 and 2. What is the least common multiple of 3 and 2? List out some multiples. 3, 6, 9, 12. 2 is 2, 4, 6. Got it. There is the common multiple. So all I know is I want the number to be 6. So let's take the first equation. And how do I make 3 become 6? I multiply it by 2. So I get a positive 6x. It's going to be positive. So now I need to take equation 2, multiply equation 2 by, and now I need to make sure that if this is a positive 6x, this one has to become a negative 6x. So I need to multiply by a negative number, negative 3. And that'll give me a negative 6x. And that's what I want to do. So I'm going to take this first equation. I'm going to multiply it by 2. I'm going to take this second equation. I'm going to multiply it by negative 3. So I'm doing both equations by something. Alright, so let's take a look at the top equation first. Equation 1. When you multiply, everything gets distributed. 2 times all of this. So just double all the numbers. 6x, 14y, negative 8. Now in the bottom, I'm going to triple all of the numbers. But I have to change their sign because I have a negative here. So that's negative 6x. This is going to be negative 15y. And this is going to be positive 6. That's step 1. And again, sometimes you don't multiply any of the equations. Sometimes you multiply one equation, or sometimes like this, you multiply both equations. So now we add 6x, negative 6x, cancel. 14 minus 15 is negative 1y. I'm going to keep the negative 1 there. Negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. Divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, y equals 2. Negative divided by negative is a positive. So my y is a 2. So now, if I got a y, I need to find the x. It doesn't matter which equation you plug it into, choose the one you think is easier. I think the bottom one is easier. So I'm going to plug it into 2x plus 5y equals negative 2. This value of y goes right in there for y. So 2x plus 5 times something equals 2, and that something is a 2. Multiply. 5 and 2 is 10. And now we do 2 steps. Let me slide this down a little bit. 2 steps. Subtract 10. 2x equals negative 12. Divide by 2. X is negative 6. So your y is 2, your x is negative 6. Put it together as a point. Negative 6, 2. And you're done. Okay, one more. Okay, so here's the final question for this review video. Solve this system of equations by linear combination. Alright. So if I look here, answer me the question. Multiply equation blank by blank so we get blank and blank. Okay? Now, if I look at this problem, I look at the x's. I gravitate toward the x's because, first of all, it's positive and negative, and I can make 2 become 4. So this requires me to only multiply one equation, and that is the second equation, equation 2. Multiply equation 2. Now, how do I make this 2 become a 4? I need to multiply by the number 2. And what is that going to give me? Well, that'll give me negative 4x in the bottom, and the top is already positive 4x. So this requires only one multiplication, and that is equation 2 by 2. So I'll do equation 2 first. Multiply it 3 times. So double everything. Negative 4x, positive 14y, negative 12. I did not multiply the first equation by anything, so I will rewrite it. 4x minus 14y equals 12. Now, as you wrote that, maybe you see something eerily familiar, but it's okay if you didn't recognize it. So now we just add. So my x's are going to cancel. Negative 4, positive 4 cancel. My y's, positive 14, negative 14. Uh-oh. they cancel too. When both variable cancels, big old 0 on the left side. Okay, let's see what happens over here. Negative 12 and positive 12. Uh-oh. They cancel. That's 0. So this is a special situation. It's special. What is the answer? It's not going to be a point. It's not going to be like the other ones. It's going to be something different. Well, ask yourself, does 0 equal 0? And the answer is yes. So then we know the answer is not no solution. So you just have to remember the other solution. If the answer is yes, infinitely many solutions. And I hope you practice writing it, because I will be looking at your spelling. I won't take off points, but I'll look at your spelling. And I'll say, you spelled infinitely correct, or you spelled it wrong. And I'm looking for it. Alright, that was a joke. So I hope this video helped. Again, you should have that paper from class to bring as well to use. And we should have a great test on, a great quiz on Monday. Practice, practice, practice. Thanks for watching.